Greetings. I'm going to be going over the Algebra 1 test, and this is going to be only using DESMOS. So let's go ahead and scroll down to our first question. Okay. It says, what expression is equivalent to this? Anytime you see the word expression or the words simplify, you cannot use X or Y on DESMOS. You have to use A and B. So let me go ahead and split screen this so that I can show DESMOS, and you type in this very question. Okay. So we're going to add a slider for all of them. Make sure that your sliders are not 1 or 0. So just, you can use decimals though, that's fine. And type in each answer, and you should look for a match of -1.1 or whatever that number is in that square is what you're looking for. So A minus 6B. Next, A minus 2B. So I found my answer. It is B. So this is kind of simple. You might be able to figure this one out on your own. If you're just dealing with just numbers, you can literally just type in this radical. But if you forget, you cannot type, this is a square root. If you were to use a square root, you can't see that. There's no 3 up there. So this is by default 2, and you can't change it. So you have to go to functions and scroll down right there and put a 3. And then you, of course, type in 48, you get a decimal. And if you just want to do that again, just click on the edit list, duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. And then I just change the numbers for the rest of them. So 6 on the outside. It looks like I actually found my answer on the first try, on the first answer. So check right here. I didn't. Okay. So yes. So in this case, my answer would be A because it matched. I found a decimal match. Okay. So moving on. If you notice that this is pretty much the same thing, you just type in, but pay attention to that this is the square root, so you use this symbol instead. But you just basically type square root 128, and then you'll find a match on your answer choices. Now it's here, it says which polynomial is equivalent to this expression if n does not equal -1. Okay, so if you were to type in this top, okay, we're gonna have to use graphing for this one, and graphing only works if we use X. So even though this is the word expression, this is one of the cases where I would recommend graphing to solve this problem. So I'm just gonna type in 3 plus x minus 2x. I'm gonna square it. So you see, you get this upside down parabola. And if you type in 1 plus x, right, you can tell that this is a factor, right? You can tell that this is a factor by that it crosses at the exact x intercept, okay? So the x-intercept for this green parabola is -1, and the x-intercept of this purple line is also -1, okay? So really, when you divide this parabola, this green parabola, by this purple line, you're left with another line. And the other line is going to cross at this one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and type this in all together. So 3 plus x minus 2x squared. Okay, divided by 1 plus x, right? You notice that you get another line that crosses this x-intercept, okay? So then you just need to type in your answer choices that matches the black line. So I'm going to go uncheck these. You're just looking for an answer choice that matches this black line. So 2x minus 3. Nope. Had the same x-intercept, but no, it needs to be the exact same thing as this black line. So 3 minus 2x. And it seems like that the second one is my answer choice. Okay, so this problem right here, you have to understand what you're looking at with graphing. So what is a factor? Well, basically is what binomial would be a product to making this thing happen. So again, in order for this um, to work, you have to use x. Even though this is a expression, we're going to have to use graphing. So we're going to type this in terms of x. So type in 42. And we're going to see this parabola again. And we're going to look for a factor. And for something to be a factor, it has to qualify by being a line that crosses at the exact same x-axis. Okay, so 2x minus 7. It didn't fly because it did not cross either at 6 or -3.5. So I'm going to type in 2x minus 6. Well, that didn't fly either, so I'm going to uncheck those. And then now I have x minus 7, almost, but it has to be exact same x-intercept, okay? And the last one must be it, which it is. So the last one, x minus 6, is your factor. So in this problem, we see an expression. Even though they didn't say the word expression, we don't see an equal sign. So we don't use x or y, but thankfully this is already in terms of a and b. Now if it was h, j, w, that's okay. With DESMOS, as long as you don't use x or y, which is for equations and graphing, then you're fine. So how do you solve this one with DESMOS? Well, you just type in this problem as is. So a to the 12th, b second, and this is divided by a to the third, b raised to the 6th. Add slider, and again, your sliders cannot be 1 or 0. could be any other number, just not 1 or 0. I use decimals because it keeps my numbers small. If I use 5 and 3, these numbers kind of get pretty big pretty quick. Um, so I just tend to not use big numbers. So 1.1, 1.1. There you go. See? Small number. So you just type in your first answer and you're looking for a match. So I'm going to type in, oh, well, I did. I found a match. And if you're like, hey, you know what? This could be a fluke. So you could just check in the second one and to be sure. So and obviously I got a different number, right? Then, obviously the first one's right. But I just want to clarify this here. So you notice that if I changed my sliders, right, my right answer and my problem stay the same because when you simplify something, you really didn't change anything. Okay? But if I use 1, right? I have all of them are the same. Okay? Because 1 isn't a good number to use to expose differences on these problems. So you might have a false answer. So that's why I would say use 1.1, 1.3 other than 1. So A, in this case, would be my answer. Okay, so when they say that the expression, again, we don't see an equal sign here, right? But when they say, hey, when they define n, when they say, hey, n equals negative 15, when they tell you what n is, the only difference between this problem and previous expressions that we use is this time when you type in the problem, like negative 2 absolute value, we can use n, by the way. So we're going to n plus 6, as long as we don't use x or y. When we add the slider to n, we're going to type in the actual number that they gave us. What happens when n equals 15? So they plug in negative 15 for n, and it spits out negative 18. So in this case, my answer is B. All right, so here, you see that equal sign there? So we have to use X or Y because this is graphing, okay? So this is kind of straightforward, but you got to pay attention to two things, the x-intercept and y-intercept. And that usually will just keep this straightforward and simple. You can have similar lines, but if they don't have the same x-intercept, y-intercept, then, you might get it wrong. So right here, the x-intercept for this line right here, 4x plus 5y equals negative 20. The x-intercept is negative 5. The y-intercept is negative 4. So obviously it's A because the x-intercept for A is negative 5 and the y-intercept is 4. In this particular problem, all the other lines kind of don't really look similar. Obviously these don't. And this one, if you weren't paying attention, you could select C by accident, but to be sure, just pay attention to the x-intercept and the y-intercept, and you should be fine. Okay, so this is a literal equation, and you can use DESMOS to actually isolate the right answer, but this is not a good example to use. So here is something that I could just do. I can give you a tip on this one. It says which equation is used to find what x, right? So you just look at x, right? In your problem, the 2 is multiplying x, right? So in your answer, the 2 should be dividing, okay? So in this case, my two answers that are ruled out is C and D because I don't even see a 2 there, okay? So if 2 is multiplying, or whatever is multiplying x should be dividing in your answer. What is this y doing? It's adding to the x. So it should be um, subtracting the x. Subtracting. So that's just a cue, just to kind of rule out, have increase your chances of selecting the right answer. So, but in this case, um, A would be your answer because 2 is multiplying here. Now it's dividing, right? And Y is adding here. Now it is subtracting. So just look for opposites and you should be fine. Okay, so when we're dealing with finding lines that goes through points, just simply type in the point into Desmos, the 2 points. So type in -4, 4, comma, 8, -2. Click on label. I'm going to use the default view. And in your answer choices, you have 4 different lines. You're looking for a line that crosses both points. So just type in the first line. And it didn't cut it. It just crossed through one of the points. So the second one is y equals -2x minus 4. And that didn't cut it either. So let's go ahead and now try the third one. -1/2x plus 2. And that didn't. So your answer choice is C. Okay. So when we're dealing with system of inequalities, it's easy to put this in Desmos, but just got to know how to read what you're looking at. Okay, so let's go ahead and type in the question, the point, right? -3, 1 into Desmos. So -3, 1, right? And you don't have to do this, but I'm going to make sure that you click label though. You do need to click label. Make sure I'm gonna just do this so that it's easier to see this point. So I'm gonna click and hold, and I'm gonna make this point pretty big. Okay, and I'm gonna drag it as well. So just to show what you're looking for. Okay, so x plus y is less than -2. Okay, so I'm typing in my first answer, type in the first part of x plus y into here, and then type in the second one, 2x minus 3y less than -9 in the second line. Okay. Now, what exactly are you looking for? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here. And you see, I only add the drag feature to my point so to make sure that you understand what you're looking for. So everything in the double shaded area is a solution. So all of these numbers within the boundaries, right, are the solution set. Now, if the dot happens to be on a boundary, right, um, the boundary has to be solid for it to be included. in the solution set, to be included in this solution set. So if you see any dots on the boundary, then pay attention whether the line is solid. And just to clarify, this is definitely not a solution, not a solution, not solution. Only the solution area is here where both shaded areas overlap. Now, if a dot is sitting on both boundaries, then both boundaries must be solid. But here you notice that both boundaries are dotted. So let's go ahead and try answer B. So answer A is out. Okay. The only difference between answer A and answer B is the second inequality, 2x minus 3y less than or equal to negative 9, is a less than or equal to. Okay, so I'm going to take my less than or equal to and put my, take my less than and put in my less than or equal to. Now, one of my lines is solid. But again, this dot, negative 3, 1, is sitting on both boundaries. This boundary is still dotted. So B isn't it. Okay. Now, answer C is the exact same thing as B, except you see how in B, the second inequality is a less than or equal to. Well, C, the third inequality, the first inequality, the first x plus y, that's a less than or equal to. So we're just going to make that swap, okay? So I'm going to adjust 2x minus 3y to a regular less than equal to sign, and my x plus y is now a less than or equal to. So it now made this one a solid, but now my other line is dotted. So this don't count either. C is out. So if you look at D, you'll notice that that's the only answer that has both of them have a less than or equal to symbol. So I'm going to just add that to my second one, 2x minus 3y, right, equal to right here. And D is my answer because negative 3, 1 is sitting on both boundaries, and both boundaries is solid. So you may not get answer choices that are almost identical to each other, but I explained enough where even with some differences, you'll be able to use this and be fine. So in this particular problem, you'll notice that it's not inequalities, it's equations, and there's not many solutions, it's just one solution. This is really straightforward. But if you forgot what to look for, here's a reminder. Simply type in 2x plus 4y equals 22. And also type in 7x plus y equals 12. Now I have seen that some make the mistake of using that as my solution or this as that my solution. But your real solution is where the two lines cross. And that is positive 1 and 5. So my answer is C. Okay, now this one, you don't really have to use DESMOS. Um, and it says the graph because they already graphed it for you. So what are your solutions? Is that, well, when y is 0 and y is 0 at the x-intercepts. So my solutions here are x equals -4 and also x equals 2. Those are my solutions. So these are pretty easy. You just simply type in, now it says what value of x makes this equation true. When you're solving for x and you're isolating x, you just simply type in this question, 3x minus 20 equal -2x, and you look for where it crosses the x-axis, and my answer is 4. So that would be C. Okay, so in this question, we're looking for an equation that it says which equation best represents line M. So keep in mind that the formula for slope form is y equals mx plus b. And the number that sits in the b spot is your y-intercept. So my line here crosses the y-axis at -4. In this question, though, all of my y-intercepts are -4, so I can't eliminate any questions, or excuse me, any answers at this point. So let's go ahead and start paying attention to the slope. Okay, so I'm going to type in the first one here. The slope, of course, which is the number in front of the x. So answer A, y equals -3x minus 4. Okay, so it does cross at -4. However, though, you can obviously see that this is a negative slope and my problem is a positive slope. So let's go ahead and cross out answer A. Answer B is y equals -1/3 x minus 4. Negative minus 4. Okay, so here, the slope is not as steep, but you can still tell that it is a negative slope. And if you pay attention closely, this negative right here could give you the indication to even skip these first two answers because my problem here is positive slope. So let's go ahead and cross out answer B. So if you type in answer C, you'll notice that it is the exact same slope. Okay. And it's crossing at -4. Now, if you're ever wondering, like if there's two answers that look too similar to each other, just look at your x-intercept, your y-intercept and your x-intercept. So the y-intercept is a -4 and my x-intercept is 12. So if you look at your problem, y-intercept is -4 and my x-intercept is 12, which here it only goes up to 10, so it's right about just right. So that can kind of take out if you had any doubts whether you picked the right answer. So in this case, it is answer C. Okay, so here, when it's asking you, like, what went wrong, you can use DESMOS to identify each step. So let's go ahead and type in our first step, and this is a inequality, right? So you use x or y like an equation. So let's go ahead and type in our first step. So negative 4 x minus 7 plus 1 less than or equal to negative 3. So you see here, I type in this as is, and it's already showing me my answer. My answer is saying that x is the purple shaded area. So x is 9, 10, 11, 12, and all these numbers are bigger than 8. So my answer should be x greater than or equal to 8. That's what my answer should be at my last step, but it's not. And according to this problem, they're telling me that he ended up with x less than or equal to 8. Okay, well, let's just keep typing each step until we see a change in graphs. Okay, so I should end up with the exact same graph as this purple graph, but if I don't, then that's when the mistake happens. So let's type in step 2. Negative 4 x 7 less than or equal to negative 4. Okay, so if you notice, I had the exact same graph there. You see that? So that means he did it right. So between step 1 and step 2, he did okay. So type in negative 4x plus 28 less than or equal to negative 4. And he still is okay. He did just fine. So let's keep going. Step 3 to step 4. So negative 4x less than or equal to negative 32. And he's doing fine. So obviously, something happened between step 4 to step 5. Because when I type in x less than or equal to 8, that's when the graph changed. So here, between step 4 and step 5, he made a mistake. All right. So these are pretty straightforward. When they say solve, that's an equation, and you can obviously there is a equal sign there. So this is an equation. In equations, you cannot use the letter n. You have to use x or y. So just, put a division bar here to make this easy. So there you go. And that puts a space above and below so that you can type in your problem. So 3x minus 7 divided by 6 equals, put another division bar, 2x plus 5 divided by 3. And right here is telling me that it graphed it. So I'm going to look for my graph now. And that line, where does it cross the x-axis? Negative 17. My answer is negative 17. Okay, so with problems that are asking for solutions of x, you can literally just graph this right here. So the problem is 3x, right, squared, right, plus 11x equal 20. And I get negative 5 as one of my answer choices, and I get a decimal. Now, if you get a decimal, just pay attention to the number that is in front of the x squared. In this case, that decimal happened because it was divided by that number right there, 3. So take the decimal and multiply it by 3. and round it to the nearest whole number. So in this case, it was 4, right? So that means that 4 divided by 3 gave me 1.33333. So my two answers are -5 and 4/3, which is D. Okay, so when they ask for slope, it says which number is closest in the value to the slope. You literally have to remember that slope is defined as rise over run. So M is rise over run. So I start at a point. I can't use points like these because they're not at a grid corner. You know, I can't use that point. So the next point I can use is this one. So my rise is from this point, I go down 1. So that's -1. And my run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my slope is -1/6. That would be answer B. Okay. So this right here, you can literally look at this question and look at where the two lines intersect, because that's the solution. And the x is 3 and the y is -7. So my answer would be B. You can also type in this problem into Desmos. So 3x plus y equal 2. X plus 3y equal -18. And then you can see that the answer is 3, -7.